I'm Stephanie Roberts. I'm a working artist who lives in Chicago and also teaches studio art at Truman College, one of the city colleges of Chicago. And have been teaching there for, I guess, about 15 years. And my work is primarily figurative. I got my MFA in painting and my BFA in drawing. So I feel like drawing and painting are both still the primary focuses of my artistic practice. I feel like because my work still revolves around the figure, that has always been my focus. I did work with a series of diving figures, and that's somewhat kind of evolved more recently with the larger scale kind of portraits that I've been working with. So I feel like maybe the emphasis has shifted a little bit to kind of zoom in a little more and kind of focus on portraiture. But a lot of the kind of primary interest with the figure, looking at the effect of light, on the form of the body or the face, is still kind of a central focus of my work. The mark making that I've made in the most recent paintings might be due to a kind of a change that I've decided upon with my medium, which is rather than working in traditional oil methods, I've been using regular house paint and acrylics, which dry very quickly and don't allow for a lot of blended areas. So part of it is just kind of keeping up with the speed of drying paint as I work. So my work, I think, it has kind of been put on fast forward a little bit as I'm working on a scale like that. But also in the medium that I'm working with, it's also kind of forced me to work at a pace that is a little less conducive to a lot of, I guess, realism and tight kind of rendering. In the example of the portrait I did of my mom, who recently passed away, it was something I wanted to do but didn't want to do at the same time. So I felt like I was, in some ways, kind of distancing myself from the process or from the subject matter a little bit in the process of painting it. But it was also somewhat therapeutic in the way that I could kind of think about that subject. I could think about our relationship, and something about the thoughts that I was kind of going through in the process, to me, feels solidified to some extent in the object of the painting. So there was something about kind of getting out something about the experience of loss that made its way into the physical object of the painting, which I find really interesting. Well, the choice of color palette, I think, in the more recent pieces, to some extent, was a random one. In my studio, I happen to have a bunch of sample paints from the hardware store, the jars that are rejected from people painting houses, rooms. So I had a whole collection of those, and something about the idea of painting a person who existed in the past made me select that kind of narrow range of lower value colors, and also kind of wintry temperatures. So I guess something about that resonated with me in terms of the subject matter in particular. The one behind me, there is some of that same kind of almost hothouse type of color, but I injected those really hot reds and, crimsons to kind of inject the rawness, the liveliness of my 8-year-old son, which seemed to kind of enliven the portrait to some extent. So, there's all that blood pumping through that young body is something that I was trying to maybe think about in terms of, almost conceptual ways in terms of my choice of color. I think a show like this in the broader context of Illinois is valuable to me because even though I am a Chicago artist, sometimes even a city like Chicago can feel like, it's almost insular in a way because it is so urban, and the community of artists kind of, we know what's happening, and everyone kind of knows each other. So kind of having a little more of a broader audience with the rest of the state, the state that I live in, is a valuable thing to me as an artist who lives in the state of Illinois. And we're all in the same boat when it comes to kind of to funding for the arts in our state of Illinois, and that's something to kind of team up and do together as a collective group of artists and art appreciators.